Today we're looking at Section 2, Chapter 29, the Axis advance as far as military engagements led by the Axis powers in Hitler's Nazi Germany specifically. Reminder tonight on homework, you have 29.2 QREV. You'll get that at the end of the screencast, as well as the next PR, which I see many of you have already started, and that's an excellent habit. Keep that up. Okay, that being said, as always, we're going to start with our first key term. Blitzkrieg. Go ahead, Kylie.
Lightning war.
Lightning war, Hitler's process of staged and efficient warfare. Make sure you have that. Means lightning war, which was where many people draw the line, and that's still correct. However, I need you guys to have down, basically, this is how Hitler attacks. Okay? With the fierceness and impressive power of lightning itself. The Luftwaffe. Steinhe?
The German Air Force.
Excellent job. I want you to have that they will battle the RAF, which will be the Royal Air Force of Great Britain. So when you compare the Luftwaffe, make sure you have RAF with it as well. Royal Air Force. Okay? Dunkirk. Ms. Lovejoy?
Port in France from which 300,000 Allied troops were evacuated when their retreat by land was cut off by the German advance in 1940.
Excellent, excellent. And it's not just the English Navy, but volunteer boaters. So, for example, some of you, not necessarily like a pontoon, but just personal watercraft, if you were in the area and able to transport people, those were the people rising up and helping out as well. So, like if you guys have a bass boat at home, you try to fit as many people on that, move them across the channel, and then come back. Even in the face of adversity and danger, that's when the human element comes in. Vichy. Go ahead.
City in central France where a puppet state governed unoccupied France and the French colonies.
Very good. And this is after the German invasion. So basically this is the German capital in France. Okay? Battle of Britain. Go ahead.
Okay. When Hitler's forces bombed Britain all day, every day for 57 nights and there were many air raids.
Good. Most important start there. Now the information down here you can add to it if you'd like, but this is the bulk of the definition underlined for you. 1941, he abandons this, also known as Operation Sea Lion, okay, because it's a naval and an air attack on the coastline, hence eastward to invade the Soviet Union. So you need to have an understanding here that Britain was never conquered by Hitler. So write that down. Never conquered by Hitler. Excellent job. Operation Barbarossa. Oops. Go ahead.
The invasion of the Soviet Union.
Very good. So Battle of Britain led directly to this, in which case we're going to try to take on the might of the Soviet Union, which we'll analyze in a little bit. Any questions thus far? Excellent. General Erwin Rommel. Go ahead.
One of Hitler's most brilliant commanders.
Very good. Specifically in North Africa. He's nicknamed the Desert Fox because he's cunning, sly, and effective. In the desert, one of his most successful generals is going to push the British back to Cairo, Egypt. So basically, this person individually, in charge of the Axis powers, the Nazi forces in North Africa, will take that entire portion of the continent for Nazi Germany. And essentially fulfilling Mussolini's goal of making the Mediterranean a Roman lake. So he's going to assist in that. Concentration camps. Kylie?
People considered enemies of the state.
Very good. Detention centers for those people considered enemies of the state. Now, initially, these will be for hard labor, so write that down. But after this takes place, they're going to be something much, much different. Okay? Holocaust.
1945, the Nazis killed 6 million of their enemies of the state and mostly Jews.
Very good. Mostly Jews, but other inferior ethnic groups in the mindset of Hitler and his party. More than 6 million will be killed total. We're talking in the period of less than a decade. More than 6 million. Now, we will watch a documentary, which is actually from the United States Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., produced by them, in which case you'll see that some of these camps, some of these death centers, will be able to kill thousands per day.
Wow.
Okay? That's one of the reasons we study history, so you guys know that something like that should never occur again. Lend-Lease Act. Go ahead.
1941, Roosevelt could sell or lease materials to his European allies.
Very good. Defense, the president deems vital to the United States. So not necessarily are we engaging in war, but we're going to assist people, who their defense is vital to our country. So if Great Britain falls, we know that more than likely Hitler will continue across the Atlantic and come directly to us. But if we can stop that by assisting our neighbor across the lake, we're going to do that. All right? That's the mindset that FDR has. Excellent. The Axis attacks. How did Germany use technology available to strike the Allies? Go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
The Blitzkrieg utilized improving tank and power technology to strike. The Luftwaffe bombed airfields, factories, towns, and cities, and screaming dive bombers fired on troops and civilians.
Excellent. So we're going to utilize the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, airplanes and explosives in a blitz against its enemies. So, now what the student did for us, and a great job of, it's not just military targets, but we're going to attack factories as well. Why would you attack factories and rail lines?
So then
No
they can't,
transportation and no.
Go
so
ahead.
they can't produce things that will therefore help themselves more.
Very good. If we can eliminate your industrial sector, you can't build more airplanes. You can't build more tanks. And thus you'll start to slowly suffocate militaristically. How did the Axis powers achieve victories in 1939, 1940? Go ahead.
They had round-the-clock attacks, and they used the Blitzkrieg big attacks, and thousands lost their lives.
Very good. Now, we're going to discuss Blitzkrieg once again here, which is the mindset we're rolling up, and the student provided that for us. Striking fast, and for here you need only underline. Striking fast, power of modern technology. Okay, if our military is just flat out superior to yours, it's hard to defend against. Which is why Germany will be able to conquer northern Africa in a period of months. All right? Power of modern technology, never giving you time to prepare a defense. All right? If you have, if it takes X amount of hours for you to be able to activate your weapons and get ready to defend our military, we need to make sure that we need to be able to fully attack you just an hour and a half faster. All right, that way, and when we watch the attack on Pearl Harbor, how they're going to be scrambling everywhere to try to stage an attack against the Japanese, we want to make sure that we are able to wipe you out militaristically faster than you can defend yourself. Which side do you think was winning at the end of 1942?
The bad guys, also known as the Axis powers.
Very good. The bad guys, the Axis powers, that controlled most of Europe, won important victories in Africa. So basically, between these two regions, the Axis powers are in charge. Okay? Though they won't claim Britain, they have the bulk of the continent under their control. Excellent job. Any questions thus far?
No.
Wonderful. We shall progress. Germany invading the Soviet Union. How did Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union nullify the Nazi-Soviet pact? Go ahead.
He made his motives clear. He wanted to crush the communism in Europe and to defeat Stalin.
Very good. In this initial promise, though, Nazi-Soviet pact, he promised they won't attack each other. But as the student did provide for us, once the Battle of Britain fails, he has to look for natural resources. So write that down. Natural resources. He's conquered a decent percentage of the whole continent of Europe, but he's still missing this. He's still missing components of that. So he needs to continue to expand, as well as the fact that communism is an enemy. So write that down. Okay? He's still fighting this mindset too, that communism is bad. Hitler agrees with Western democracies on that. So he needs to get that eliminated. How far did German troops advance in the first few months? Okay, they reached into the Soviet Union, about to capture Moscow and Stalingrad. So they're very far into the country. And there's actually a map in this section as well. They're going to reach very far into there. However, there's going to be something that's going to slow them down. So that being said, what prevented German troops from gaining victory? Go ahead.
The Russian winter.
Very good. Defense and winter. South's defenses were along those cities, such as Leningrad. They were activated, so you could say that they could mobilize fast. They mobilized faster than he thought they would, as well as harsh winter. Now, how many of you love hanging out outside during the winter the whole time? Some of you do. One of you do. Okay? Now, consider this. We don't have winters to this scale. Your average around the areas he's attacking, can you stage a full-scale military invasion if you are not used to this? No. You have to be a special type of soldier. You have to be the Bear Grylls of soldiers. Okay? If you can't handle this, though, all you're going to think about is how cold you are, not fighting the Soviets. So it's just going to be a matter of time. How did Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union work against him? Led to cooperation between the Soviet Union and the West. Okay? His mindset is if we attack this area, we will claim it for Nazi Germany. However, he didn't see this relationship building. If you attack this area, Soviet Union's also going to ask that Britain pulls in a Western front. While Hitler's moving east, now the British are going to come in from the west. Here we have a two-front war. So write that down, two-front war. Which is one of the big things he was trying to avoid the whole time. Which, if you, with our study of World War I, that's why they failed at that. And now it's a matter of time before the United States becomes involved. Well, we can't do that yet. Life under Nazi and Japanese occupation. What ideology was the basis for Nazis' brutal treatment of conquered people? Go ahead.
Hitler and his followers believed to be a master race, and the slaves of Eastern Europe were shoved aside to provide more living space for the children.
Excellent. Okay, they believe themselves to be descendants from the Aryans. They believe to be the master race, as the student did provide. Okay, all others are inferior, especially these groups, which you can see. Obviously, those people are going to be the ones that are going to be persecuted and placed into those concentration camps, and then eventually become members of that unfortunate and horrific event known as the Holocaust. Okay? How did Nazis put these beliefs into practice? Go ahead.
To accomplish his beliefs, Hitler had 6 special death camps built in Poland. Nazis shipped undesirables from Europe to the camps. There, Nazi engineers designed the most efficient means of killing millions of men, women, and children. The mass expulsion of Jews will be known as the Holocaust.
Excellent. Which is this whole thing here. Okay? Now, we're going to spend a little bit of time in this one. Force conquer people of these groups into slave labor and work camps. So, say for example, you have some kind of artisan skill. You're a watchmaker, a jeweler, a dentist. They could potentially put you to work in the concentration camps. And we're not calling it death camps yet because we're not to that point yet. In these concentration camps. And you would just eventually work until you died.
Oh my God.
And some of these people would go weeks without food. The average lifespan inside of a concentration camp was right around 6 weeks. Once you arrive there, again, this is an average, 6 weeks until you pass away. Due to treatment, due to malnutrition, due to unsanitary conditions. For example, say you are so weak because you haven't been fed, some of these people couldn't, pick the fleas and lice off them. So disease starts to spread in the bunks. They didn't care. Eventually, you would be sent to the showers, as they'll be called, which the documentary will explain that more. Millions systematically killed. Systematically meaning there was a plan involved there. Okay, so if you're not sure what that means, there was a plan to this. Okay, they had specific scientists and engineers whose sole purpose was to design an efficient and effective way to kill people with little to no effort. Okay? The documentary we're going to watch starting on Friday and ending on Monday, you'll see that there's this whole portion about how the guy who designed these showers and the incinerators viewed himself to be a hero of the world. Okay? Eventually he'll be placed in war trials for high crimes against humanity. Political opponents, the elderly, Hitler had no use for them. Okay? When one was to arrive on a train, more often than not, the elderly were sent directly. Okay, because they were not able to experience hard labor. They couldn't put in the workload that the youthful individuals could. The disabled and homosexuals, the disabled were experimented on. Okay? Identical twins, experimented on. Hitler and Heinrich Himmler, who will be the person in charge of your death camps, wanted to know how they became twins. Anesthetic, not usually. If you died on the table, there were more twins coming. Okay? This is a horrific time period. If you ever get the chance, the one up in around the Detroit area, Farmington Hills, or certainly the one in Washington, D.C., just so you guys can visually experience to an extent what is occurring here. And you'll get to see this with personal testimony on the documentary as well. So nonetheless, that is what he calls or what is known as the Holocaust, or what Hitler views as the final solution. Write that down. Final solution. Okay? To purging Europe of inferior races. This is the type of guy who's in charge of this country. Japan attacks the United States. How is the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor similar to the German invasion of Poland? Both were surprise attacks done before any declaration of war. So no speaking between the two nations. We had no idea. Now, there are conspiracy theorists saying that, yeah, there was a plan in place. We just didn't act fast enough. And we will watch the attack on Pearl Harbor as seen in the movie Pearl Harbor, which is very historically accurate. Surprise attacks done before any declaration of war. Now, obviously, after the fact, there will be a declaration of war. Do you think that the United States could have stayed out of the war?
Maybe.
Maybe. No is the common response. Japan's attack was intentional, and the devastation to the psyche of the American identity. Now, this is a big idea here. The psyche of the American identity. What does that mean? You guys say it every day for the most part. I'll write it down for you. Okay? That go get them, we're the Americans, we're going to save the world, we'll defend ourselves, to the death, blah, blah, blah. Devastational to the psyche of the American identity. This basically was a shock to the United States that we aren't as strong as we think we are, because we didn't see this coming. Does that make sense? We weren't prepared for this. Like I said, when we watch that attack scene, watch how people are scrambling just to try to arm themselves on ships that are sinking into the harbor. Okay? They weren't ready for this. Thus, it was devastation. It was basically, like you guys get robbed or something, God forbid, at your house. It's broken into. Before that, you guys felt secure, you felt safe, and now your parents are talking security systems. You weren't ready for that. Excellent. Objective 1 and 2. Describe how the Axis powers came into control much of Europe but failed to conquer Britain.
The Luftwaffe could not gain air superiority over Britain, and Operation Sea Lion was a failure.
Good. So a couple things here which the student did provide for us. We're going to start off with the initial invasions, though. Italy and Germany captured France, set up the Vichy. Okay? 2 points there. Launched Operation Sea Lion, there's another point. Evolved to the bombardment of London and other cities. So initially we're attacking the coast, then they're going to move to the interior. The Blitz, and you want anything that's underlined. The Blitz took place, but the RAF defeated the Luftwaffe. Okay, so English victory here. English W. Causing Hitler to look to the USSR. And then Rommel is taking areas within Africa as well as the Balkans. So you can see how this will be scored. Many different things going on here. They captured France. They failed to capture London. They failed, Britain specifically. Then they failed to battle effectively as the Axis powers against the Royal Air Force, so thus they looked to the Soviet Union. Excellent. Summarize Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union. Go ahead.
3 million German soldiers invaded. 1941, Hitler nullified the Nazi-Soviet pact by invading Soviet Union in the Operation Barbarossa.
Yep.
Wanted to crush communism. 2.5 million Soviets died. Soviets destroyed factories. Soviets Soviet troops supported Leningrad, eventually surrendered.
Excellent. So we start off with the attack moving eastward was the nullification of that document. Okay, big idea there. Soviet troops pushed to the interior, destroyed factories along the way. This is called slash and burn. Now, why do you guys think that they would destroy their own factories on the way in?
Other people could use them.
So other people can't use it, absolutely. Okay? Eventually, Mother Nature, as well as Soviet troops, will assist them in warding off this full-scale invasion. Now, this whole video will be available, but I'm going to go ahead and put up the last two objectives. That way you guys can get this information down. Horror of the genocide the Nazis committed. Jews, Poles, Slavs, and Soviets. Make sure you have all of those. Other enemies of the states sent to concentration camps for hard labor. Okay. Hitler launches the Holocaust as part of the final solution to purge Europe of inferior races. 3 points on this objective will hail from these: Treblinka, Bergen-Belsen, and Auschwitz. Those are the 3 major death camps. Auschwitz we will analyze specifically in that documentary, as far as how this is basically a city that is planned for the efficiency of taking human lives. Okay, down to how rail networks are structured through. Before assisting Allied powers through items such as the Lend-Lease Act, which is the United States, and destroyer bases. So that's how we were interacting before. Before, Lend-Lease, destroyers for bases. Make sure you get those in. Join the war formally after the attack on Pearl Harbor. That's when we come in. Declared war through the approval of Congress, December 7th, 1941. Which we will watch that speech as seen in the movie Pearl Harbor. I'll start passing back your homework packets. And then the next PR is homework as well. If you missed any information, please watch the video.